Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to explore something that might completely change the way you think about yourself, and especially the parts of yourself that you've been trying to hide. What if I told you that the thoughts and feelings you're most ashamed of are actually the key to unlocking your full potential? That's not just some feel-good philosophy. It's based on the groundbreaking work of Jung, one of the most influential psychologists in history. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why the parts of yourself that you've been fighting against might be exactly what you need to succeed. But before we dive deep into this life-changing concept, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and join our community of deep thinkers and self-explorers. Every week we uncover profound psychological insights that you won't find anywhere else. Imagine walking through your mind like it's a vast house. The rooms upstairs are bright and welcoming. These are the parts of yourself you're comfortable showing to the world. But there's a basement door, locked and heavy, concealing something powerful in the darkness below. Jung called what lies behind that door the shadow self. Your shadow isn't what you think it is. It's not just your negative traits or dark thoughts. It's everything about yourself that you've pushed away, denied, or tried to forget. It's the wilderness of your psyche where all your rejected parts live, your unacceptable thoughts, your forbidden desires, your hidden potential. Think about the last time you had an emotional reaction that surprised even you. Maybe you snapped at someone you love over something small. Maybe you felt a wave of jealousy when a friend succeeded, then immediately felt ashamed of that feeling. Maybe you judged someone harshly for something you secretly worry about in yourself. These moments aren't random. They're glimpses of your shadow peeking through the cracks of your conscious mind. Jung discovered something fascinating about this hidden part of ourselves. The more we try to suppress it, the more power it gains over us. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater in a pool. The harder you push it down, the more force it builds up, until eventually it explodes to the surface with even more power than before. This is why people who seem perfect on the surface sometimes have the most spectacular falls from grace. They've pushed their shadow down so hard that it finally bursts through with devastating force. But here's where it gets really interesting. Your shadow isn't your enemy. In fact, it might be the most valuable part of your psyche, if you know how to work with it. Every trait you've suppressed has two faces, like an ancient coin. On one side, there's the aspect you fear. On the other, there's a hidden gift waiting to be discovered. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. I recently worked with someone, let's call her Sarah, who had always been ashamed of her intense emotional nature. Throughout her life, she'd been told she was too much, that she felt things too deeply, that she needed to tone herself down. She pushed this part of herself into the shadow, trying to become what others wanted her to be: calm, controlled, always pleasant. The truth is, this journey goes far beyond just individual psychology. Recent neuroscience research has shown that emotion suppression actually activates the amygdala, our brain's fear center, while consuming enormous amounts of cognitive resources. In Sarah's case, the more she suppressed her emotional intensity, the more it would explode out in unexpected ways. She'd find herself crying uncontrollably over small disappointments, or feeling overwhelming anxiety about minor changes. Her shadow was trying to be heard. The breakthrough came when she started to see her emotional intensity, not as a weakness, but as a potential strength. She began to understand that this same depth of feeling gave her extraordinary empathy, creative passion, and the ability to form deep connections with others. Today, she's a successful therapist, using her emotional sensitivity to help others navigate their own inner worlds. The very trait she once saw as her greatest flaw became the foundation of her greatest gift. This transformation is what Jung called shadow integration, and it's one of the most powerful processes you can undertake in your life. But here's the thing, it's not easy. It requires courage to look at the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. It demands honesty to acknowledge the traits you've denied. And it takes wisdom to find the gold hidden within your darkness. Let's talk about how this shadow work actually happens in real life. It begins with awareness, paying attention to your triggers, your strong reactions, your inexplicable dislikes. These are all breadcrumbs leading back to your shadow. When you find yourself having an intense reaction to someone else's behavior, pause and ask yourself, what is it about this person that really bothers me? Often you'll find that the traits that trigger you most strongly in others are the ones you've disowned in yourself. Jung put it this way: everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. This isn't just clever psychology, it's a practical tool for self-discovery. The person who triggers you with their arrogance might be reflecting back your own suppressed desire for recognition. The friend whose neediness annoys you might be showing you your own denied need for connection. But shadow work goes deeper than just identifying these patterns. It's about reclaiming the energy you've been using to keep these parts of yourself hidden. Think about how much mental and emotional energy it takes to maintain a perfect image, to always be nice, to never show anger or vulnerability or desire. That energy is your life force, and when you free it up through shadow integration, it becomes available for growth, creativity, and authentic self-expression. Now let's explore how this understanding can transform your relationships. When you begin to accept your own shadow, something remarkable happens. You become more accepting of others. You stop being triggered so easily because you recognize that their flaws are just different aspects of the same human experience you share. This doesn't mean you become passive or accept bad behavior. Instead, you develop the ability to respond rather than react. You can set boundaries without drama, express disagreement without judgment, and connect with others from a place of authentic understanding. Consider how this plays out in leadership. The most effective leaders aren't the ones who've eliminated their shadow. They're the ones who've learned to work with it. They use their ambitious drive without becoming ruthless. They channel their anger into protecting their team. They transform their fear into careful planning and strategy. This brings us to one of Jung's most profound insights. The shadow isn't just personal, it's also collective. As a society, we have collective shadows, the traits, emotions, and impulses that our culture has deemed unacceptable. These show up in our politics, our social movements, our entertainment, and our conflicts. When you learn to work with your own shadow, you become better equipped to understand and navigate these collective patterns. You start to see how social media, outrage, cancel culture, and political polarization often reflect our collective shadow at work, the parts of human nature we're trying to deny or project onto others. But here's the truly revolutionary part. Your shadow isn't just holding your rejected traits, it's holding your greatest potential. Jung believed that our golden gifts often come wrapped in darkness. The sensitivity you've tried to hide might be the source of your emotional intelligence. The anger you've suppressed might fuel your passion for justice. The ambition you've denied might drive you to create positive change in the world. Let me give you a practical example of how this works. Think about someone who's always been told they're too much, too loud, too passionate, too intense. They might push these traits into their shadow, trying to become more acceptable. But in doing so, they also suppress their natural leadership abilities, their capacity to inspire others, their power to make change happen. Shadow integration would mean acknowledging and accepting these intense qualities while learning to channel them effectively. Instead of dimming their light, they learn to use it skillfully. They discover that their intensity, when accepted and refined, becomes charisma. Their passion becomes persuasive power. Their too much becomes exactly enough. This is where personal development becomes truly transformative. Instead of trying to eliminate your negative traits, you learn to find the wisdom within them. Your perfectionism, when integrated, becomes healthy attention to detail. Your sensitivity becomes emotional intelligence. Your restlessness becomes the drive for positive change. The process isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. It's about reclaiming all the parts of yourself you've disowned and finding the gifts hidden within them. This is what Jung meant when he said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." As we near the end of this exploration, I want to share something deeply personal. My own journey with shadow work began when I realized that my drive to help others, which I'd always seen as purely positive, had a shadow side. I was using it to avoid my own needs, to maintain an image of being good, to escape the parts of myself I didn't want to face. Acknowledging this was painful. It meant admitting that even my best qualities had complex roots. But here's what I discovered. When I accepted this shadow aspect, my ability to help others actually deepened. I became more authentic, more present, more effective. By owning my shadow, I found my true power. This is the invitation I extend to you today. Look at your shadow not as something to fear, but as something to explore. Your darkness isn't your enemy. It's the other half of your wholeness. Your negative traits aren't flaws to eliminate. They're messages to understand. Your shadow isn't your weakness. It's your hidden strength waiting to be discovered. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate the shadow. It's impossible, and attempting it only creates more inner conflict. The goal is to integrate it, to find the wisdom within it, to use its energy for growth and creativity, rather than letting it operate unconsciously. Before we end, I want you to consider something. What if the traits you're most ashamed of are actually holding the keys to your greatest potential? What if your sensitivity, your intensity, your anger, your desire, all the parts of yourself you've tried to hide, are actually essential pieces of your power? Take a moment to think about that, and if this video resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into practical psychology and personal transformation. Until next time, remember, your darkness might just be your greatest gift. Thanks for watching.